just having vision for your finances. Your money needs a vision, right? And so I tell people all the time, money makes a great employee or terrible boss.
Welcome to the Freedom Point Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about creating more time freedom through passive real estate investing. Passive investing in real estate challenges conventional investment wisdom. We are passionate about learning and sharing resources with others who are ready to transform their investing mindset.
Quick disclaimer that I am not a CPA, attorney, or financial advisor. My thoughts and opinions expressed in this podcast are provided for education and informational purposes only. My views are from being a successful business owner, entrepreneur, and real estate professional for over 20 years.
I'm glad you're here. Now let's dig in.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to the Freedom Point Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Drew McWilliams, and I will be your host. I am really excited to welcome LaShawne Holland onto our show today. LaShawne, if you want to say hi.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited about this today.
Well, I'm excited to dive in, talk to LaShawne a little bit more, but I want to give you a little bit of background to who this person is and what we're going to be talking about today. So LaShawne is the founder and CEO of the Wealthy Leaders Institute. She equips high-achieving professionals with strategies to develop, multiply, and maximize wealth through money, mindset, mastery, and more. She has had 27 years of experience in the nonprofit community, scaling businesses to grow, including being the CFO of an international company. LaShawne, I hope I did you justice. I'm excited for you to kind of unpack a little bit more about your background, and then we're going to get into kind of that wealth building mindset in the bulk of our journey today, if that works.
That works. Thank you so much. I think you did an amazing job with that. But we help transform lives, of mission-driven, freedom-seeking people. And we help them do business system mastery and or investing, depending on, where they are in their journey, in their wealth building journey.
I love that. So what are the reasons why people reach out to you? Like, what's the big why? Like, for someone to have that ability to pick up a phone or send you an email, there has to be a root cause of them realizing they need help with something for planning.
Absolutely. I say it all the time. There are two things that get people moving, either motivation or desperation. All right. And so they heard me on stage somewhere because I speak globally all over. And they were motivated by what I saw, or desperation. They're at their wits' end. They want more money in their life. They want more freedom in their life. And so they're like, hey, I need help here. So those are mainly the two reasons that people, reach out to me, either desperation or motivation. But I probably have more people out of motivation reach out to me because of the story that I have. And I started out testing this with my kids when they were little. My kids made six figures by the time they were 11 and 12 years old. They have graced large stages like Inc. 500. They were actually the first kids ever to be on the stage with speaking at Inc. 500 event. And so Ernst & Young, they've won awards with Ernst & Young. And so I saw that there was a knack. Every time someone would come to me about a financial issue, I always had a solution because I read a lot and I experienced a lot, even with my own finances. And so what really, really started me in the beginning was I just wanted to be able to give my kids the advantage in life. I wanted my ceiling to be their floor. I wanted to be able to give them different experiences in life. And then that somewhere along the line, it changed. I wanted to be able to help people do that. All right. And so that's what, led me to start the Wealthy Leaders Institute. And I feel really blessed to be able to work with people globally all over, because we think that our money is in a silo. We think making more money, and it's not in a silo. It's a synergy of things working together.
Yeah, I love that. There's so many different rabbit holes that I want to go down right now. Let's talk about, how did you get 11-year-old children to make a six-figure income? Because quite honestly, at the time of this recording, I have an 11-year-old. He's not making six figures a year. So can you just unpack that? Because I think a lot of our listeners equally have children. So that's mind-boggling to me.
My kids grew up, my husband's an engineer and I was an accountant. And so my kids really grew up in a business world, because although at the time, years ago, we were working before we started our company and came to our company full time, they sort of grew up in it. So at dinner, all of our conversations are around money and entrepreneurship. And they had an idea they wanted in 2008. They were in independent schools, and I'm not sure if your listeners understand what independent schools are, but they're very expensive schools. Like, I'm paying $30,000 for elementary school. And so I'm like, the real estate market, is crashing, and we got caught in the crash. And I said, listen, before I make a decision to, send only 2 of my kids to an independent school, I'll send nobody to an independent school. Like, it's all 3 or none. And my sons came to me and was like, we don't want to leave our school, so we want to start a business. And they did. And I was like, if we're going to do this, we're not doing birthday parties and bar mitzvahs. We need to go where the crowds are. And so we did that. And because they were so young, they got a lot of media attention. One of the first things I did was do a press release for their story. Everybody needs a story. We did a press release of how they were going to, help their parents pay for their little sister's tuition to independent school. And then the media just ran with that story. And so, we got invitations for them to start doing media appearances, and really they were doing large events. And they just happened to get a lot of notoriety. No one cares if you're serving shaved ice at 30 years old, but they love it at 11 and 12 years old, right? Yeah. And so really that's how they did it. They just did large events, and, we guided them, and now they're entrepreneurs to this day. They're no longer 11 and 12. They're 28 and 27, but they still do business. They graduated from college. Our business is what put our kids through college debt free. They graduated from college. My youngest son took over our real estate investing company. My oldest son teaches options trading and, the Wealthy Leaders Institute with our clients. Because once you make money, you should be multiplying the money that you make. All right. And so he teaches options trading to our clients. And then my daughter is very proficient in spending everybody's money. So that's what she does.
That's what she does.
Yeah.
Well, at least everyone's strengths and weaknesses.
Right,
so
right.
That's all been fleshed out by now.
Right.
Well, that goes back to kind of, the last 2 things that we talked about. It's still motivation, right? People come to you and your institute, for that motivation wise. And you just said your children started that entrepreneurship journey to stay in their private independent school out of motivation, right? I mean, so it's amazing how that all gets tied back in together there.
Right.
Yeah.
Motivation can be a powerful force.
Yeah. So can you give us some kind of like specific actionable plans or examples that you work through with people? I know you talked about real estate. Obviously, a lot of our listeners are very familiar with real estate and real estate investing in the space that Starting Point Capital does. But, I know you said options trading. What other kind of options are out there for people to explore that might not know about it?
Right. And so I think it's, really, it depends on what you like. I think it's very important for people to learn that every asset class has a cycle. Right. And you have to find out which cycle you're in to be able to maximize your investments and then to mitigate losses. So I would say education is the first thing. You can start out like I did. Google, what are the asset classes that exist? Something as simple as that. And I just happened to go down the rabbit trail of what really piqued my interest. And traditional investing for me just took way too long, and it gave someone else the power. And at the time that I started, I didn't want to give anybody else, that much power over my financial future. And so I, discovered a way through options that I can have more control over it. But I love real estate also. We're real estate investors. It's really how we got our start to even build the Wealthy Leaders Institute. In the beginning, our very first property, I netted $47,000, which paid off our debt. But the second property, we made over $500,000 right before, 2 weeks before the real estate market crashed.
Well, timing is everything, right?
Timing is everything.
You just talked about the cycles, realizing what cycle you're in. You must have realized it was time to sell cycle
we are in. And so, I just really started doing my homework and doing a lot of research on, I love commodities. and there's signs out in the world every single day of what's going on. When the dollar bill is doing bad, then gold and silver is doing good. So I went down, the rabbit trail of learning how to invest in commodities. And so I started buying a lot of silver. This year, I'm buying a lot in water technology and agriculture, anything that's dealing with food. And so I think the biggest thing for me was discovering how to read the charts. It totally changed my life. And then learning about the different cycles. Real estate for an investor has a cycle. Commodities has a cycle. Commodities are simply anything that comes from the earth, right? As long as we have people are going to want food, right? And so we look at the benefits of the different commodities that's out there. And then you have the stock market. You can, invest in the stock market or in options trading. So there are a lot of different avenues you can go with investing, not just one. Another thing that we teach our clients how to do is mergers and acquisitions. And so buying other companies. And so it's, when the saying is the world is an oyster, it truly is. You just have to find your spot. What turns me on when I'm investing? What do I want to be involved? Don't I want to be involved? A lot of times we don't take the time to, figure out what do we have the capacity to build. And that's really important. But I guess learning the cycles of the asset market in which you want to be able to multiply your money is important. And so I talk a lot about that in my book, Born to Multiply.
So let's talk about cycles, because I know that's been mentioned a couple times. I have heard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I've heard a couple people always say that when you try to time the market and hit the low spot perfectly, you've probably missed it by 6 months. Is that
Absolutely
true statement?
Absolutely. That's a true statement. And I don't know anybody who's been able to time the market per se perfectly, but I do know plenty of people who've been able to read the charts to see, what was going on. You look at, there's so many people that make money, when stock market crashes. I always hear people complaining about it, but listen, I love it when a stock drops. That's where I make my biggest gains, through puts. And so people don't really understand that. They're not aware that you can make money in the market no matter which direction it's going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where are you allocating most funds these days? Are you doing all private investing? Are you on Wall Street? Where is that mix of the portfolio at?
So I segment it. We take 30% of everything that's coming in and we do put it in the market. I mean, we do options with it. Right now, for the next 3 years, we're going heavy on real estate. I have a goal that I want to be able to give each one of my kids 300 doors. And so, just doing large frame. I'm not looking for single family homes anymore. I'm looking for apartment. We're in deals doing apartment buildings and things like that. And so that's really important to me. I take 10% of everything that comes in and I am investing it in someone else's dream. That's important for me. I believe there have been plenty of people who have, just stepped in my path, got to put them in my path to be able to help me out. Right. In the beginning, when I was start out. So 10% goes towards helping other people build their dreams also.
Businesses, just entrepreneurship in general.
Just entrepreneurship and businesses in general. And really business is my sweet spot. The majority of my clients that come to me because they have a business, but their business is not making any money. Right. And so it's doing the things that move the needle the most. But to be honest, what I find is people get stuck and they don't move because, they have a lot of limiting beliefs on the inside. They have resentments. I believe that it's desire plus the non-resistance equals desired results. And so whether it's in business or investing, if I can get rid of, what my resistance is, and a lot of time that's in the limiting beliefs, it's in past traumas that we've been through. It's in, just generational issues. If I can get rid of the limiting beliefs, if I can, not fight for, my being stuck, because that's what people do when they hold on to their limiting beliefs. If I learn how to transform my resentments and we take them through a whole decision matrix and to be able to get rid of my resentments and unforgiveness, because people don't know, but all of these things affect your business. It affects your climb. I don't care what your business model is. And so you really do have to be free and then get a plan to be able to multiply your money. So I would say mindset is probably the very first thing that a lot of times, because you're in real estate investing.
Yeah.
How an investor thinks about real estate is very different from a homeowner and how they think about, real estate. And so it's really having the mindset of a multiplier, changing that. What does that look like? Because you can't build when you have scarcity in your life. You got to be able to grow beyond the scarcity and grow beyond the lack. And so I guess really building the right mindset of a multiplier is really important. And then learning how to increase your cash flow is really important, is one of the first things that I take a lot of business owners through. And then controlling your outflow, because those are two different things that you have to be able to do to be successful and build the net. And when I say a net, I mean, I remember I grew up going to church every single day. Well, not every day, but at least 3 times a week. It felt like every day growing up. But I remember a story that I heard once, and the story was about the fishermen fishing and how they fished on the right side of the boat. And at the same time that I was hearing that story, I was reading Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm like, hey, wealth is on the right side of the boat. Well, in his equation, on the right side is business system mastery and investing. And so I knew I needed to have a net. I needed to have a business. I was never going to get wealthy. Although I made great money, I had to work, 365 days, it seemed like, to be able to make it, or at least 52 weeks a year. I didn't want a life like that, and so building the net, investing in assets. Well, if I wanted to invest, I had to know what assets were available for me to invest. So I started learning that way. And then just really learning how to preserve your money through tax structures and, being able to leverage your legacy. Because people always talk about leaving a legacy. I not only want to leave a legacy, I want to live the legacy with my kids. And so I love being able to pick up. It's too cold outside right now. I'm leaving in 2 days. I'm going to the Caribbean. I'm taking my daughter with me. I love the fact that they've built lives of freedom too, where they can pick up. I just got a call to come speak in Portugal. My oldest son was like, okay, I'm going with you, Mom. I love that we get to build the legacy together.
I love that. LaShawne, it sounds like you've been very blessed in your life, right? You've probably have achieved financial freedom many times over. What drives you to still help others? Because you could easily just, cash out, go live on a beach. I have no doubt about that. What drives you
Absolutely.
to keep talking, being on podcasts like me, being a public speaker, being an author, giving back? What fuels that?
I honestly believe that people are God's currency, not money. And so for me, I feel like I'm co-creating, with helping people build their dreams and be able to live their level 10 life. And so, I love it. I have a client now who at the beginning of the school year called me crying, and I didn't know what was wrong. I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? And she's like, yes, today I just dropped my girls off at an independent school. And years ago, when you first told me, I thought you were crazy to spend that much money. And she came in she was making like 60 something $1,000 working for the government. And now she owns 53 Amazon trucks. She owns 5 Meineke locations. She has real estate investing properties. So her life looks really different than it did when I first met her years ago. And so I love being able to co-create and help people build their dreams.
I love that. I love that. 2 last questions for you. Let's talk about your book. Let's unpack that a little bit. Can you kind of shed some light on what that is and who that might be a good target for?
Yeah. So I wrote a book called Born to Multiply. And really, this book is a story of my journey and the things that I learned, very early on in my journey with people, even opening up their knowledge base to me to teach me. And so understanding that a lot of times struggles that we deal with is not because of anything that we've done. But I talk a lot about epigenetics, right? How, the gene expression of your ancestors or then gets passed down to you. And so you may struggle with a poverty mindset and not understand why you're struggling with these different areas where it comes to money. And so I talk a lot about just having vision for your finances. Your money needs a vision, right? And so I tell people all the time, money makes a great employee or terrible boss. Right. And so just learning how to put our money to work for us. Most people don't sit down and think, okay, how much is enough? What's my wealthy life number where I can say, okay, I'm satisfied now. And then reverse engineer it and build it from there. And so the book Born to Multiply, Different by Design, Disruptive by Choice, is really about us getting in the driver's seat of our money and making it multiply. So our kids aren't starting from ground zero all over.
I love that. That's awesome. We'll put the link in the show notes for anyone that wants to go check out your book.
Absolutely, because it's free.
That's even better, right? There's no reason not to go download that.
Right. I give the book away for free. It's free. You just pay for shipping and handling, but I also give it over $300 worth of just free bonuses of programs about money inside of it too. So
that's very nice. That's awesome. And in conclusion, this is my go-to closing question that I ask every single guest, LaShawne. All right. What are your highs and lows along your career journey thus far in your life?
My highs probably would be, I have two. One, I was asked to be the commencement speaker at Bennett College, which is an all-female, historically Black college that I attended for 2 years and had to leave because I couldn't afford to stay. I was the first generation in my family to go to a 4-year institution. And so I couldn't afford to stay. So I left to come home to go to college. And they had no clue about my story when I got a telephone call one night and I hung up because I thought the person was playing. You were chosen to be the commencement speaker. And I'm like, okay, someone's playing games. I just hung up the phone and then they called me back. And it was such a surreal moment for me to be on the stage of an institution that I could not afford to stay at. But I came back now as a successful businesswoman, a multimillionaire, talking at their commencement. So that was a big high for me, probably one of the highest. And then, of course, speaking at South by Southwest was amazing because it was the largest audience that I've ever done. The lows for me probably was the real estate crash of 2008 because we got caught in it. And so we were buying up all of this land, beachfront property. No one told me that I don't get to write it off because there's no buildings on it. So I had all of this land that I'm paying for that I had
no depreciation on that.
No depreciation whatsoever. And so, that's when I started learning about cycles of investing, so that probably was one of my lows. And then two, although it started out as a low, I don't view it that way. But last year I was diagnosed with stage 0 breast cancer. And so it was a low because my grandmother passed away from breast cancer. 6 of her sisters passed away from breast cancer. My father passed away from cancer. And so, it was really a mind thing for me last year. I really had to overcome that. And so, but I feel like that was my greatest gift. It started out being very dark and a low point for me. But today I feel like it's such a gift because of who I grew into, the transformation that actually took place. And so I just believe when we have setbacks now, it's just a call for us to come up higher and to grow.
Look at you. Well, I'm glad you've persevered and gotten through all that extremely successfully and with a clear bill of health. So
thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. If our audience wants to connect with you, what is the best way to connect and find out what you're up to?
Absolutely. So you can go to LaShawneHolland.com and it's spelled LaShawne. We had a conversation about that E earlier, LaShawneHolland.com, and you can contact me there. But we're running in March, the week of the 15th, a free challenge called the Liberated Souls Challenge. Because I notice when I start working with entrepreneurs, a lot of times they get stuck. Right. And they're stuck with anxiety and overwhelm. And sometimes building a business, your life can become unmanageable. And I wanted to be able to give people the tools that I learned when I was diagnosed with cancer. I went to Costa Rica and to a mindset retreat. And so the things that I learned to help heal me of those issues from my past and childhood traumas, it was such an amazing experience that I wanted to offer a free course of the things that I taught, which is why we're doing the Liberated Souls Challenge in March.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you, LaShawne, for being on. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with you and get to know you. Thank you for joining us today. And listeners, thank you as well for tuning in to our conversation. If you'd like to start a conversation with us about starting your passive real estate journey, please reach out to us on LinkedIn or view our website at startingpointcapital.com. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for hanging out with us today and for listening to the Freedom Point podcast, powered by Starting Point Capital. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on this show should be considered financial advice. Before making any financial decision, please consult with a professional. This show is copyrighted by the Freedom Point podcast. Written permissions must be granted before syndication or rebroadcasting. If you're interested in connecting, you can find contact information at startingpointcapital.com.